Hello team, welcome to my session on Coffee with Prab, and today we're going to discuss about EDR and XDR with a practical use case, because I have seen a lot of people getting this topics frequently asked in the interview jobs in a SOC and cybersecurity. So I thought I will make a video on this. In this video, we're going to also discuss the case study. Okay, how the XDR EDR is used with a case study, and we're also going to discuss about the interview questions. My name is Prab Nair. For more information, you can subscribe to my channel and click on the bell icon, and you can also check my LinkedIn profile for my cybersecurity experience. So without wasting our time, let's start with the first part. Thank you. Okay, so first we start with the EDR. Okay, if you see the full form, normally it is called as a Endpoint Detection Response. Yes, so let me write it down here. Endpoint Detection and Response. Okay, so it is itself say that detection response as a solution which is basically introduced for the endpoint. Now endpoint can be my web server, endpoint can be my host, endpoint can be any client system. Okay, so why we need this solution when we have antivirus, DLP and all that? See, when you're talking about antivirus, okay, their primary goal is to inspect the file and check the signature of the file, and based on that it detect. But if that file was infected and what changes it introduced in a system, what activities happening on the system, what manipulation happening in the process, that cannot be detected by the antivirus. But we have a DLP. See, DLP is a solution. His primary objective is to protect the data. So we have a host here. If the data is basically leaving the organization control, DLP basically inspect and block the data. So DLP is work around the data protection. But what about the system? Okay, so as a user, I run some processes. As a user, I open a PowerShell script. As a user, I open some files. As a user, I'm receiving a multiple traffic on my system. So identify the pattern of the traffic, identify the suspicious activity which is happening in the system, detect, and automatically respond to that instead of depending upon a technical person. That is basically called as a EDR. That's why today a lot of companies are basically using EDR for that particular reason. So when you're talking about the EDR part, that's why it's clearly mentioned is EDR is a cybersecurity solution that is basically focus on protecting the endpoints. Okay, so they basically provide information about each endpoint, such as process activity, file changes, network connection, system events, which enable the security team to quickly identify, respond to the threats. So EDR continuously collect data, okay, and data on the processes, performance, configuration changes, network connections, files, data downloads or transfer, and user device behavior. So all those things, it's basically collected by the EDR. So how it works is, suppose this is we have a one server. Okay, it's a GUI server. This is basically my endpoint device. It can be my one of the client system. So we install a client system one lightweight software, which basically start monitoring the activity of the system. Okay, and slowly and gradually, whatever the data he collect, he basically provide the data to the server. And based on that, server is basically update the policies. So tomorrow, any kind of a attack happen, any kind of a activities, multiple user attempts happening, multiple packets are coming. So the agent is basically having a predefined profile check from the server, and based on that, it will block the attack. Okay, so each endpoint run as a EDR agent, and these agents monitor the system calls, file system activity, network traffic, process execution on the respective host. They configure to report to the centralized management console. So that is why the EDR basically continuously collect data. Now we have a host here, we have a server here, we have a cloud. Now I don't want to be limited to only each and every host. I want to understand if any attack happened the system C, from there it went to the D, and from there it went to cloud. So I want a now holistic view of that solution. For that reason, we basically introduce another one which is called as a XDR, Extended Detection Response. So XDR extend the capability of EDR by integrating a multiple security product into the unified platform that offer a holistic view of an organization security posture. So we have different benefits when it comes to the XDR. The first benefit, if you talk about, the first is extended visibility. Extended visibility basically means it collect and correlate data across the various security layer, not limited to endpoint. So this may include your network data, cloud environment, email, and your applications data. Okay, so that is the first thing. Second is it has an advanced detection capability. So by integrating a different security component, XDR can apply more complex analytics to detect the sophisticated threat across an organization's entire digital infrastructure. Along with that, it also have a coordinated response. So when you're talking about the coordinated response, it means it can automate the response across the different security firewalls. It basically automate the response across the different security layers. For example, if the threat is detected on the endpoint, so XDR can automatically update the firewall rule and or adjust the access control. Next is basically it also offers the simplified investigation. So with the data from a multiple source in a one place, XDR can simplify the investigation process and it make it easier to trace the full path of an attack and understand the impact. How? Suppose this is the firewall we have. Okay, so it ingests the data to the EDR or XDR. We have a system A, we have a system B, we have a system C. So with the EDR agent, it pull the data to server and from there it go to XDR. So we get an idea 1.1.1 is the attacker IP. It was able to bypass the firewall. It went to this system, then to this system, this system, this system. So XDR is basically having a holistic view how this attack happened. So that is why it provide the simplified investigation things. Okay, and it make it easier to trace the full path of an attack and understand its impact. More important is it's also offer the proactive threat hunting, because it basically has a platform which often include the advanced tool for proactive threat huntings, which allow the security team to search for the hidden threat before they trigger the threat or the alert. Now let's understand how the EDR and XDR used together so you get a better visibility. Okay, so now in this process, we're going to discuss about how the EDR and XDR is basically used together. Okay. So this is a very high level diagram. So suppose this is your user device, which is called as an endpoint device. Okay. And he was working on a system. And what happened is he discovered some suspicious activity. Not he discovered, the system discovered suspicious activity. There is an attacker. He was able to penetrate into the system. So antivirus was failed. So he has a Trojan access, and now through the Trojan access, he tried to access system. So here the EDR agent discovered the suspicious activity. So he detect the threat and send the notification to his server. Okay, so the process start with endpoint device detecting a threat, and the threat is then analyzed by EDR system, which basically store event data in its database. Okay, that is what happened. If the alert is generated and it's look like a threat and all that, then it basically sent to the server. It's sent to the SOC. Okay. The EDR system also initiate a response back based on a baseline and all that. It initiate the response action based on an endpoint device. Parallelly, what happens? SOC also oversee the EDR and then integrate the data with the XDR. Here you can see integrate the data with XDR because XDR need a holistic data. Then XDR system extend the capability by correlating data across the network. Okay, and across the cloud and other sources, and then they analyze the threat from these various source and also automate the response. So here you can see they basically automate the response directly to the endpoint device. So alert from the XDR system are also sent to this called SOC also. Here you can see it is also sent the alert to the SOC. Okay, where the further investigation can be take place and policy update can be issued to the endpoint device. So here you can see like this attack is not limited to only host, so it having a network level. So according to that, they took the holistic view, and according to that, they have blocked this particular function. So this is how the EDR and XDR use. So EDR is limited to host, where the XDR use your cloud, multiple solutions, and correlate as a visibility and then respond to the alert. Okay. So let's understand with the case study how the EDR works and XDR works. Thank you. So one more use case we have. I want to make sure from this video you understand all the topic clearly. So there is an employee. Okay. He basically click on the phishing link. So there is a system A, employee is there. Okay. There is a hacker. Okay. He sent a phishing link for the lottery. He click on the link. So when he click on the link, there was a malicious payload which is downloaded. Okay. So when I click on the link, it lead to the download of a malicious payload on his endpoint here. Now what happened? There was a endpoint agent is basically running. So they basically detect this particular payload and generate an alert. So you can see alert was generated and it goes to the security team. So security team basically use the XDR platform to correlate data. So he will see that, okay, is this IP came from a firewall? So they check the data from the IP. Then they determine the scope of attack. They isolate the affected endpoint. They remediate the endpoint. Okay, they collect the forensic evidence. They identify source and everything. Okay, so here the team use the XDR to isolate the affected endpoint and remediate them, as well as to collect the forensic evidence to determine the source of the attack. The reason of using XDR is, suppose this is my endpoint. So there was an endpoint agent is running. That's basically sending the data to the EDR server. EDR server send the data to the XDR server. XDR server basically collecting the data from threat intel feed, firewall and proxy. So here we have a firewall. So now what happened? There was a IP 1.1.1.1. It was able to bypass the firewall. So firewall logs goes to the XDR. Then it go to system B. So system B is basically hacked. So that IP goes to the EDR. So IP will verify, okay, 1.1 is the IP. Here XDR is basically verify also 1.1 is came from firewall. So they match this particular attack pattern. And based on that, they send the response command to the EDR and EDR will basically respond to the attack. So EDR is limited to the host, where the XDR is basically cover the entire holistic view because it cover your firewalls and everything. So that is how the entire process basically works. See, why EDR? That's a question. See, if you talk about an antivirus, so antivirus is all about scope of threat is malware. Okay. So when you talk about EDR, EDR is basically have a wide range of threats, including a malware, ransomware, insider threats. On the other side, DLP basically only for the sensitive data. When you're talking about the scope of data, antivirus only inspect the file and process, where the EDR basically do the endpoint activity. They look for the system files, they look for the processes, they look for the network traffic, they look for the user behavior. DLP only protect data in transit and rest. That is why we need a EDR with DLP and other things. So every solution that we introducing has a particular scope, and according to that, we need to buy that solution. Okay, so now let's understand with the case study how it works. So we have a case study here. So we have a financial organization has a hybrid infrastructure with the endpoint, cloud services and on-prem data center, and it use EDR to secure its endpoint and recently implement the XDR to consult data security operation across the network. So how it works? So this is basically one case study we have that we're going to discuss in detail. Don't worry, don't get stress. We're going to discuss each and every case study in a different way. So we have a user workstation. He detect the anomaly. Anomaly is basically means suspicious activity, and he basically, so agent was running on the user, so he alert the EDR server. So alert was about the spike to the data to the external IP, so he'd give to the XDR. The concern is that this is the successful attack, so file was already copied to the USB, okay, which is basically going beyond the permission. Okay, then what happened is here the alert was basically generate. Okay, and along with that we basically have a requirement here. DLP system is also there. DLP system inspect the data, try to block. Network traffic is send the alert. DLP will also send the alert. IAM system also send the alert. It is against the workstation according to the access. Then XDR platform instruct the EDR to isolate a workstation, which basically provide the logs. And then XDR is basically analyzing a user behavior, do the continuous eradications, recovery, post-recovery, reporting confidence. So this entire activity is happening on the SDR because he need to have a visibility from all the solutions. Okay, so we're going to discuss each and every steps in detail. Okay, so EDR configuration, each endpoint run on a EDR agent, and this agent monitors system called file activity. On the other side, XDR is a platform which is integrate the data feed from the XDR agent, internal network sensors, SIEM and DLP systems. Here you can see, right? In this diagram, you can clearly see XDR is the one. So scenario is very simple. We have a device 1, we have a device 2, we have a device 3, a client device, okay, in which the EDR agents are there, which is sync with the EDR server. And then we have a DLP here, and DLP, we have a firewall here, and we have a IDM. Here we have a XDR, which is basically integrate with that. Okay, so this is the case study we have. So let's understand this case study in detail. Thank you. So here we have a use case. Okay, the diagram that we discussed, we're going to discuss now in detail. So as I said, there's a EDR agent. So we have a system A here. Okay, so we have a system A, and there is a user who working on the system. Now what happened is, there is an agent is running on a system. It's a very lightweight software, and he discovered the user is basically sending some data. Okay, so here we have a internet. Okay, so you can see EDR agent on a user workstation detect anomaly. Anomaly is basically suspicious, abnormal, when rarely used data analysis tool starts scanning through a files on the network share that contains sensitive financial records. User typical behavior profile does not include accessing the large volume of these records, because we create a profile, and based on a profile we try to find the pattern. So now what happened, agent is basically send the information to EDR server, and EDR basically send the information to XDR. Okay, XDR. So XDR platform receive an alert, and they say, okay, there was a network traffic analysis. So we have seen the spike in the data being sent from a user workstation to the unusual IP. Okay, because here we have a NDLP also. So NDLP sending information to XDR. And we also have a DLP system where it says sensitive file has been copied to the removable USB drive. So here we have a pen drive, he copied the data. So DLP also send the logs record to the XDR. And IAM system also attempted and reviewed that, okay, there was a access data beyond the permission level. So all this information, okay, go to the XDR. EDR is send his activity to EDR. So they combine the activity, and they found something is basically suspicious. Now once they basically identify that, XDR system correlate the alert, increase the priority due to the potential severity of the breach, because it was a financial record. And EDR, what it does, then automatically isolate a workstation from a network base on predefined rule regarding a data exfiltration activity. Data exfiltration activity basically means data leaving in a unauthorized manner. So here the XDR, what it does, because EDR is on a device level, so he does their activity. Then we leverage the XDR playbook, and the response is not just an endpoint, but XDR also trigger his activity. What? So here we have a XDR. Here we have a XDR. Okay, and here we have a system A. Give me a second. So we have a system A here. There is a EDR agent, there is a firewall, okay, there is my internet. So agent is already sent the information to EDR, and EDR basically already sent the instruction to block. Parallelly, what happened, if the data is already left the system, we have sent the instruction to XDR. XDR is basically send the instruction to firewall. So here the firewall automatically block the traffic to the suspicious IP, because the IP, so attacker IP was suppose 1.1.1.1, and on this particular IP they're sending a data. So XDR basically receive the information from EDR, this is the IP, and then instruct the firewall to block that particular IP. So that is the role of XDR. So EDR is limited to the host. Whatever the activity need to be done on the host, it is done by EDR, but that activity initiate data left the system, it going outside and going to the network to firewall, we need a XDR to integrate that. So XDR is the one who take care of the firewall and block the thing. XDR is the one who take care to DLP server and block the thing. XDR is basically sending the information to IAM system to block his access. So here you can see the IAM system temporarily disable the user account to prevent any further unauthorized access. So that is how it basically works. Now further, after blocking that particular activity, okay, so next is that we do the investigation. So we have a forensic process where the EDR provide the detailed logs. Here you can see it is clearly mentioned, detailed logs of the user actions. which execute the command, file access time, network connections. The network forensics also be initiated. So XDR provide the flow data packet from the system. So here you can see, so we have a system here, okay, and here we have a firewall. So firewall has a logs. Logs basically provide the information to XDR. Okay, it also provide the information to SIM. And here also we have a, the system A, their logs, which is basically sent to the EDR. EDR basically send the information to SIM. So we basically understand the entire flow data packets, which is capture the time of incident. And we also use the user behavior analysis process where we examine the user behavior to data to determine if this was targeted attack on a user credential was compromised. Then after that, what XDR did, XDR is basically confirm the nature of breach, and it basically facilitate the removal of malicious tool found in the endpoint, because this has a feature of detection response. So they have a playbook which basically they scan and automatically they remove that particular virus from the system. So that is part of the containment and eradication. Once we're done with that, the threat has been neutralized, it's been reduced, the affected systems are brought back online, and XDR platform assists with the recovery process. Then we also have a post analysis where the incident, the SOC team review the complete timeline, okay, and XDR platform, they identify any security gaps. And finally, all the compiled data related to the incidents, they will basically prepare for the legal regulatory requirement. This is how the entire process basically works. Okay. So same thing we discussed, user has discovered the unsuspicious activity. So they basically send the information to EDR. EDR agent basically give the alert to the XDR that there is a spike in the data to the external IPs going. Along with that, when user device connect the pen drive, he copy the data, that information goes to the XDR, and the user tried to access the file for which he does not have a permission. So that also breaches the access permission. So access beyond the permission, that log also goes to the IAM system. DLP basically record, and network traffic analysis also capture the activity. So all these information goes to the XDR. Okay, so which is called detect, and based on that, they can basically send the command to block. Okay, so that is done on the network level, and EDR agent will take care of the user workstation. So this is what we discussed. Then what happened, XDR will correlate the information. They instruct the EDR to isolate a workstation. They did that. EDR also providing a logs to the XDR. XDR also collecting a log from the other sources. Based on that, they predict the user behavior, they contain, they recover the system, they did the post analysis, and finally they perform the recovery. So here you can see EDR is limited to the host, where the XDR collect the data from all the system, and according to that it block the instructions. Okay, so that is how the entire process works. Now there's a lot of questions basically asked based on this in the jobs. So the questions like, can you explain the difference in EDR and XDR? So interviewer are looking for an understanding of the scope and capability of each solutions. Second is, how does the EDR system detect malware on a device? Okay, based on a process. So the question basically assesses the knowledge of detection mechanism like signature, heuristic, behavior analysis, because they use this kind of a technique to detect. Then what is the role of artificial intelligence machine learning in the XDR? So candidate should discuss how the AI ML can improve the threat detection response. Then they can you describe the process of incident response in the EDR systems? Here the question basically tests the candidate on the practical knowledge of incident handling with the EDR platform. Then along with that, they're also going to ask about what are the common indicators of the compromise that EDR system monitors. So here the interviewer expect the candidate to familiar with the IOCs, okay, such as unusual and unbound network traffics, anomalies in the privileged user accounts, activity, geolocation, irregularities, and how do you ensure the scalability of the XDR solution in a large enterprise. So here the candidate should discuss the consideration for the large scale deployment, including a data management and system performance. So these are the general questions which is basically asked when you go for the interview. So this is all from my side. Do let me know how do you find this particular session, and shall I make more sessions on the SOC on a similar topic. Thank you for watching my video. Your friend Prab Nair. Truly appreciate your inputs on your comment box, which help me to improve my video. If you're new to the channel, do subscribe to my YouTube channel and click on the bell icon to make sure you should not miss my future videos on a similar topic. Good day. Bye.